All right. So I'm Christopher Julian, and this is the first episode of the Jazz Traveler podcast. Here I've got my good friend, Abraham, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi there, guys. My name is Abraham. I go by the handle Funicon. Um, I'm also a jazz pianist. I'm a professional software developer. I've been friends with Chris for like a long time now, and yeah, that's it.
Long time. Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. And so, I just wanted to create this channel just just to talk, because on my main channel I don't like I try to keep the content predictable, so that I don't piss any of my subscribers off. And it's just like I sit down at the piano and I'll play, or I'll make a beat and then you'll just hear the beat. But I don't talk very much. And I kind of wanted to, be able to have conversations and like bring people on and stuff like that. And so so that's what this channel is going to be about. It's just going to be about if anybody's interested in hearing my thoughts and my friends' thoughts on various issues. And so I think we've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about the Great Resignation. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. I've got a stat pulled up here.
Okay.
In August, 4.3 million workers in the United States quit their jobs voluntarily.
Mhm.
And that was a record. And then in September, they broke that record again, but I don't have the stat for September. But I think the August number is impressive enough. So I'll let you say kind of what you think about that, and then I'll chip in. So what do you think? I mean, that's a big number. We've never seen this before. I mean, what's going on?
Well, I think that it's pretty clear that this has a lot to do with the turmoil going on right now in in the workplace. I've talked to some people who have left their jobs recently, and some of the reasons that I've heard are um, one thing is people don't want to go back to the office. They've been working from home for a year, and now the prospect of having to go back to an hour-long commute each way, 8 hours sitting in a chair uh, for the same amount of money just doesn't appeal to people. They've been saving money uh, since the pandemic. We saw what happened to the economy. Um, People haven't been spending as much, but the good result of that is that now they can afford to quit their jobs to go pursue things that they're more passionate about. And we've been seeing a lot of that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of it on YouTube, but it's hard to know how reflective YouTube is of like real life, you know? Um, a lot of people quitting to become YouTubers. I saw a few videos of people that just quit and they didn't know what they were going to do. They just quit,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I just think I just think it's incredible because at first people were quitting when there was like all of this enhanced unemployment and stuff, but
Right.
that's over now. And people are
That's
still
been gone
quitting.
for a few months. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are still quitting. So, I mean, I'm impressed, and I wasn't really predicting this. Um, because I kind of figured, once the unemployment was gone, then people would
That
kind of.
that's what all of the economists thought too.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know,
it's kind of like the logical conclusion, right?
yeah. But I think from what I've been hearing from people is that I think part of it is that people became very introspective over lockdown and started to look at their priorities. And I've seen so the biggest unemployment right now are are in the industries like food service, retail, and healthcare. These are jobs where you got to be there in person. People spend a lot of time on their feet. They are pretty labor intensive. I think that the prospect of having to continue doing work that they're not passionate about in light of potential health risks, I think that particularly will drive people to act in a way that's like not the most economically efficient. I mean, to quit your job with nothing lined up, to an economist that would be irrational. But to the people who are doing it, they clearly don't care about the money, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, I mean, I guess it just kind of, well, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I've heard some, I mean, I follow a channel called Bull Boom Bear Bust, and it's like a finance channel,
Mm-hmm.
economics and stuff like that. And, you know, yeah, he was just, he likes to talk about, how, yeah, about how people have been leaving and they haven't been finding like anything, I guess, to replace it. And I guess he's been predicting that they're going to end up going back
Right.
eventually. And I mean, I guess I would kind of predict the same thing as well. I guess we've been
Mm.
seeing people have been kind of living like bunched together, like living at home. Millennials, apparently younger millennials, most of them live at home with like their
Mm.
parents.
Yeah.
So I'm a younger millennial, so like 30, ish. Um,
I guess I am too. I'm 31 somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, and so I guess that helps. Um, but I don't know. I mean, it's just like a cultural shift, and I mean, I guess people have kind of shown that they've got a little more grit to them than I thought they did. Yeah, I thought they were gonna fold, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been impressed. I have certainly seen people quitting with nothing lined up. I mean, I basically quit my last job with with nothing lined up back in like May because I wanted to work on a book and I knew that I would go back to work. But right now, I think part of it is that people know that there will be jobs when they want to go back to them because the job market is just so hot right now that it's like if you're someone with skills, you don't really need to feel too worried about finding work. And maybe if you're feeling burned out, um, you know, so something else I've seen is people being forced out to account for childcare, since a lot of these full-time workers also now have to take care of the children. We've seen one parent have to quit their job, and um, I even know people who don't want to send their kids back to school now because sending them to school is actually more work than just homeschooling them because there's so many regulations. So there are all kinds of factors that I think are driving this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the parenting part of it is definitely one thing. And it just kind of came to me. Um One thing that the host of that channel, Bull Boom Bear Bus, is talking about is that he's saying that he thinks, and I kind of agree with him, that people are fed up of working these service sector jobs and and knowing with like 100% certainty that it's not going to lead it anywhere, basically. That they're going to work to the bone, and then that they're not even going to barely be able to survive, and like they're sick of it. I mean, do you think that that's accurate?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think particularly in the service sector jobs, especially now that these jobs are being so heavily regulated, people are just kind of fed up with it. Uh, just that's a problem. Is that where's everybody going to go? Like you said, most of these people are probably going to have to go back to work. Um,
That was my next question.
yeah.
That was my next question. I'm like, okay, so you quit your job at Starbucks. So like now what? I mean, maybe you can live with your parents for a while or something, but I think the bottom line is that eventually people are gonna have to do something, right? I mean, everybody can't be a YouTuber. I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, everybody can't have a, I guess, a job that's agreeable. And I feel
Mm,
like that wasn't always kind of an issue really in the United States, because I feel like even if you were working a crappy job that you really didn't like, you were earning enough at that
mhm.
job that you were kind of like, well, this is worth it for me. But I think that's changed. So I don't know. I mean, like, makes me wonder what's the larger trend here? You know?
Well, we've seen wage stagnation since the 80s. We've seen the American dream used to be what, like a house in a nice neighborhood with a B plus level school and two cars. That's a that's not an American dream for most people. That's an American fantasy.
Yeah.
And it used to be, even if you were a clerk at Best Buy, you could afford a house and and to send your kids to a good school where you have a reasonable belief that they'll do better than you did. I'll tell you what, I looked at the house that I grew up in. I could never afford that house. I make more money than my entire household income growing up.
Yeah.
That's kind of says a lot. And I'm a software developer. I'm very fortunate. I can own a modest house, but to most people, they're you know they're not that lucky. They're making not a great rate per hour. Um, they're having to work in these service oriented businesses, which is where we're seeing the heavy turnover. Those are very
Yeah.
stressful jobs,
Yeah.
and they've only been getting worse.
They have. I mean, I don't know. I feel for these people because I feel like they take a lot of abuse, and it's like it's such a thankless job, and now it's like a payless job, you know, where it's just like there's no incentive. Um
Right, it's just enough to keep your head above water, and that's not going to create hope for people.
yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, I guess I can kind of talk about myself because you said that you quit your job and you went
Now,
back to
now
work.
I'm back doing the same thing,
Right.
but I am making a lot more money though.
That's
Um,
always nice.
yeah, I mean that's another feature of this current job market. People know that if they quit, there's a good chance they'll be able to make more. Uh,
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it goes to show that you know, if the financial incentive is big enough, I mean, people will
right.
kind of suck it up. Like, I mean, I feel like that's what I do like a lot. I mean, I don't hate my job. I like my job. It's a fine job, but I mean, the financial incentive is a clear one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not hard to rationalize.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I wouldn't be, pulling 12-hour days just like, I don't know, if I wasn't going anywhere with it. But I guess, yeah, so to talk about my experience with this like great resignation, which is what it's been called just because so many people have been quitting and it's really become kind of like a cultural phenomenon. So my experience with it, I mean, I never quit my job, but I feel like I kind of got off the treadmill in a sense because I guess for those of you that don't know, I'm a resident physician and that's a really academic oriented kind of place and like their expectation of you basically is that you're going to dedicate your life to academic medicine. And what is academic medicine? Like you're going to do research. Like when you're not treating patients, you're going to be doing research. And those two activities are basically going to be your life until you retire. And I didn't want to do that. I love the patient side of things. I'm more of a private practice kind of guy. I want to have good hours at a small private hospital, come home early, and be able to do my own thing. Um, and I just kind of and I feel like that kind of reflects the kind of the sentiment going around that people want control of their lives, and so um, one's my kind of I guess turning point moment here. I wanted to do derm path, which is like a really well dermatopathology. It's a really academically oriented branch of pathology. It's very competitive. You really have to kind of dedicate yeah, you have to go 100% at it. And so I applied one time, didn't get in, very common. And then so I was going to apply again. And the people at Penn were going to help me, actually. There's a doctor there who is a big name in the industry, and he offered multiple projects for me, to be in them and to be on the paper. And, I would definitely get my derm spot if I did this. And I declined, you know, I declined. And it was funny because in the email where he was offering it to me, and then when I declined, his follow up email, he was like, okay, so we're going to do this, 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 that. I don't think anybody's ever declined an offer from him before. I don't even think he read my email. I I think he just assumed, yeah, Chris is gonna do this, and then he was just like laying out, how we were gonna do it, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, maybe like kind of like wasn't like didn't communicate effectively, I I've kind of changed career trajectory. I'm not gonna kind of do it. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. He was very cool about it, but there was a lot of anxiety around that kind of, because I was really stepping off of that academic medicine treadmill and I got pushback over it. I did. At Penn, I got pushback from people in derm. They're like, what? You're not doing derm? Like, what's going on? And I don't know. I just took my life into my own hands. And now I'm doing my channel and my channel's doing better. And I feel like it's got a bright future. And I'm so happy that I did that. And I guess I'm telling this story because I feel like it reflects the sentiment of the kind of great resignation. I feel like this is what people want, right? Like they want to be able to step out of the job and step into their passion. What do you think?
That is 100% what I'm hearing, and I feel like part of this is a generational gap too. You brought up the fact that we're both kind of relatively young millennials. Um, I feel like there's something about our generation that we take our passions very seriously,
Yeah.
and to us, to someone of our age, there really isn't anything strange about turning down a prestigious dermatology position to start a YouTube channel because we understand what the potential is. That the potential is actually greater with the YouTube channel, but that's not something, a hospital administrator. I don't know how old that guy is, but I can assume he's pretty old. Well, I mean, guess I shouldn't say that, but um,
Yeah, I mean, he's not a millennial.
right.
He's like a older generation X.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah, they're a lot more traditional.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've worked with some Gen X guys before, and there's a definite generational gap there. I feel like we don't. Yeah, they're kind of, well, it's always dangerous when I start generalizing people, but I definitely see this kind of free spiritness in the millennial generation, and you hear it when you hear older people talking about young people these days. They all think that they're special with their Snapchats. Um, but it's just kind of a different reality for us. Sorry, that was
Yeah.
kind of a ramble, but
No, no. I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of riff off of that actually because I think that that's a direction that I definitely want to move in. Yeah, so let's talk about this generation. Let's talk about I remember being a kid in the 90s. And I mean, I don't know if you were hearing this, but one thing I heard all the time was follow your passion, the money will follow. Like that was something that people just said all the time, like adults,
mhm,
teachers, parents. I heard it everywhere. Um, and I remember, internalizing it as a kid. Another thing that I heard is that, you have to do what you love because if you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life. That was
right.
another one of these things that adults were saying. And I think that I mean, our parents are basically Gen Xers. Some of my teachers were boomers, but this was like the ethos of the 90s. It was really an optimistic, eh, um, you know, I remember thinking about like feeling that way as a kid, like a very optimistic time where people were like, you have to be aggressive and you have to do what you love. And it was, I'm gonna say, I think that it was really positive. And then we moved into, I feel like things changed in like 2001,
Mhm.
after 9/11, and then with the recession, and then kind of, I feel like we've kind of been in a recession ever since. Maybe I'll get comments of people saying, "What are you talking about? Look at the numbers." Fine, I get it, but I feel like we've basically been in a recession ever since, and not just economically, but also psychologically.
For
And
sure.
and people haven't been saying those things ever since the 90s. You know, I
Mm,
feel like at that point, people were like, "Well, you kind of have to just survive," and that's what I've been
right.
hearing. So I've talked long enough. What do you think about that?
I think that's pretty accurate. I think I I definitely grew up hearing that, but you brought up 2008. After seeing so many people get destroyed in 2008, yeah, I think that the financial crash kind of washed that idea from people's minds. It went from being, like, oh, so and so's going to some film school, good for him, to, oh, so and so is getting a useless film degree, what a moron.
Yeah, yeah,
And part of that is also the inflation in tuition, just
hmm
making it even more expensive to follow your dreams.
yeah,
um but yeah, there's definitely a psychological shift, and it's weird because now it really is easier than ever to make money doing what you want, and I feel like the attitude hasn't changed. that people still look at YouTubers as somehow less than like a professional actor or something. Um, yeah.
Interesting. I guess this will be kind of like, I guess we can kind of digress a little bit, but you know, I think YouTubers have surpassed actors. That's what I think. I mean, and I'd love to hear what your opinion is on this. I mean, but I don't think actors have the same prestige that they once had at all. I don't even think people like, at least the Hollywood ones. I mean, people are kind of watching like Korean stuff and like
Mhm.
in like Bollywood stuff, and I feel like they're still enjoying that, but I don't know. And whatever. It's fine if you want to redirect this back to the original topic, but I feel like YouTubers have surpassed some of these traditional, like Hollywood, just like video games. I don't think that people look at it like that anymore.
I think that's accurate. I think that the nature of celebrity in general has changed. These kinds of factory packaged celebrity of the weeks, they don't really work anymore. We don't, you don't have a Jennifer Aniston like ubiquitous. What did they used to be called, starlets or something like that?
Sex symbol?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And the interesting thing about YouTubers is that they aren't sex symbols.
Yeah, they're
they
not.
they look like normal people, and I see people doing really well on YouTube that for all of human history up until a few years ago would have gotten laughed out of Hollywood and said we can never put your face on camera, and they're killing it promoting themselves.
Yeah,
So I think there's a lot to admire there, more so than an actor. So if people look at celebrities as being aspirational, I feel like for the average Joe, Joe Sixpack, a somewhat overweight gaming YouTuber who's kind of balding but has 14,000 people watching him is probably more aspirational than some Hollywood male bimbo with a six pack or something who's like not even a real person. So I think yeah, I think for sure they have surpassed actors, and yeah, yeah, their roles as celebrities I think are already more powerful than most actors could be.
absolutely. And I guess just to piggyback off of that, I mean, is this generation just a little bit more honest? I mean, it's like I feel like people aren't afraid to just leave their career and I don't like go backpacking. I see that. Go to Mexico or go to Europe or go to Taiwan. Excuse me, one YouTuber that I saw, she quit her job in Philadelphia. I live in Philly, by the way, so it's kind of
Mhm.
funny. But yeah, she left Philly and now she lives in Taiwan.
Wow,
And it's like
that's
and I,
awesome.
yeah, and I'm not gonna generalize too much, but I feel like a segment of this generation is just more honest. They're just like, look, this is what I want out of life, and I'm not gonna play this make believe game anymore. And I think it scares people. I think it scares previous generations that their
Yeah.
whole life was this make believe game. You know, I don't know. I'm not a boomer. I can't look at things from their perspective. But what do you what do you think about that?
I mean, I could certainly tell from the reactions of my family members to some of my plans and life choices that they don't really get it, and they think that it's kind of maybe a little disrespectful that I'm eschewing what what they valued. But the false narratives and I think that to be a millennial is to be disillusioned. It and maybe some of that is because we came up almost before the fall during 2001 and we saw kind of how good things could be, um, and
Yeah,
kind of where they've gone. Uh,
yeah, yeah. Hey, that's true. It's yeah, disillusioned in a sense, but 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 not resigned to some kind of,
mhm.
to like, oh well, this is just how things are. It's like I feel like back then everybody was on the same page. It's like you do what you love and that's it. And then the older generations abandoned that, but the millennials held on to it. You know what I mean? Like we didn't abandon that. We're like, no, actually, I am gonna do what I love, and like that's gonna be it. And like I'm not, I don't know, you know. I mean, yeah, yeah, I think that it is disillusionment because like to grow up in the '90s and like I guess for people that are kind of listening that aren't millennials, you know, it was just a kind of like a special time in my opinion, like with the boy bands and like the R&B music. There was like and Pokemon and like the growth of video games and everything. It was just like this time where you kind of felt like the world is your oyster. At least that's how I felt about it. And then now where it's kind of like what what is the what is going on now?
Now it's don't complain about the food shortages.
Yeah, now it's just like just shut up and take it.
Yeah. Minor downgrade, yeah, it's just the contrast there, and I think that's part of this is why with millennials nostalgia is such a huge business, and it was a big business for boomers, but for millennials it's like almost a like way of life, because
Absolutely.
the reality we received has no resemblance to what we were promised, and I feel like that's part of growing up in general, but um the period between like the 90s to the early 2000s, there was just so much radical change there that, um it's yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, talk about radical change. I mean, who are some of the people that were big in the '90s? Like Howard Stern, you know, right? Like, wasn't he like one of the top radio hosts at the time?
Right, yeah, when you think about the 90s, you got to talk about Howard Stern, the shock jock who was a
Yeah,
popular person who was extremely controversial. It's impossible to even imagine that now.
exactly. And I think it's funny that you picked up on that without me even really saying it. But you're right because yeah, what a shift. Um, yeah, what a shift. And I don't think people can shift that quickly. Uh, you grow up one way. It's like some of that's gonna stick. And I think a lot of it's stuck, and we have our values, and they're not just gonna disappear. And then so that's why we have like this huge chasm. Um, but I don't know. I feel that I feel that the older generations are kind of coming around to like I guess to our side, for lack of a better way to put it. I feel like they're kind of coming around and kind of realizing like because like a lot of boomers that I see and like how they're handling their retirement and like their later life plans and stuff. Like I feel like a lot of them have kind of cast away their pride and stuff and kind of tried to be a little more like millennials too, like do what they love and forget about expectation. And I feel like I'm seeing that, you know? I feel like that's what this great resignation is, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that this the time people spent in lockdown, a lot of people did a lot of soul searching. It sounds like, and this is obviously a process that started long before this past year, but it certainly accelerated things, I think.
So we do have another topic, but before we kind of move on to that, I know you spoke to a few people. You have any stories to just share about like people's experiences and kind of you know anything we can learn from that?
Well, um, let's see. In terms of specific examples, I did talk to this girl who quit her job on Wall Street because her boss wouldn't give her like the evening off to go to her father's deathbed. It was
Wow.
that kind of thing. And they said, "We're paying you this much money, yada yada yada." And then she said, "Why do I even need this money?" So now she's working on a book. But I think the real lesson there is save,
Yeah.
so you can quit and walk out when someone tries to do something like that to you.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My savings make me sleep better at night. You know, because I'm like, if people want to really push it with you or whatever, then I can just leave. Like, whatever. I'll be fine for at least like a year at this point. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, like, definitely kudos to the people that can quit without having that assurance. I don't know how they do it.
Some people are just built like that. This is not related, but I saw this girl moved to Japan on like one of those 3-month visas. She had no money, didn't speak a word of Japanese. She sold all of her shit, moved out there. She was like, I'm gonna make it out there. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she's still there and she's working. And it like somehow worked out. So, I could never do that.
It's stressful. I couldn't either. I guess just because my life is kind of just very set up now with
Hmm.
how my channel is. Um, but hey,
True.
sometimes you just got to make a move, make it happen. Um, cool. Um, Final thoughts on the Great Resignation before we kind of talk about making it as a creative.
No.
Yeah, I think we covered it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see kind of comments and stuff to see what people kind of think about it. This is a topic I think that's only going to get bigger, really.
Yeah. Yeah. If any of the listeners quit their job recently, or you're thinking about quitting your job, share a comment, and that would be really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I think that this kind of segues nicely into how to make it as a creative, you know,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
because that's what a lot of people are trying to do.
Very related. Yeah.
They're trying to make it as a creative, and I don't want to be negative. I think a lot of people aren't going to really be able to do it, um, and I can say why, um, because you know, getting into art, music, literature, uh, and poetry, film, any of these things. It, you know, the channel part of it actually really is the easy part. That's the easy part. Like, and I'm just speaking from personal experience. Like sometimes people are like, yeah, you work so hard on your channel, and it's like, well, yeah, kind of, but not really, because like learning how to run a channel is kind of just like technical stuff. What the hard part was learning how to be a competent musician, and you can't just do that all of a sudden. Like I've been kind of
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I've been working on that since I was 5 years old. And obviously, I didn't know that I was going to start a YouTube channel at 5 years old, but I knew I was going to do something with music
Mhm.
and that this is what I was going to do. And it's like a long term goal that you have, to be
Sure,
creative.
for sure. That's a great point. And that's how I was with writing. I am a novelist. I work on web novels, and so I majored in English in college because I love drama and literature so much. But then I didn't use it at all after college. So what I'm trying to say here, and to piggyback off of what you were saying, you need skill. That's the
Yeah.
first thing you need. And skill doesn't appear overnight. So for you, you've been playing piano since you were 5 years old. For me, I've been studying novels and Shakespeare since college, and I've done some writing. And now I'm feeling that I am at a level where I can try to do this. Um, I am also learning how to draw. That's a very long process, and I have I've I've said I'm going to need a number of years. And if you want to be a creator, even if you want to be a gaming creator, you can't just decide I'm going to be a Call of Duty creator tomorrow.
No, no.
You need to have a considerable degree of skill there.
Yeah.
And so so I kind of broke this down into three categories. You have schooling, which is gaining the skill. You have promotion, which would be like running a YouTube channel. And then you have monetization, which would be selling your product on Gumroad, Patreon, YouTube ads, whatever. And all three of these are totally totally crucial to being able to make it as a full-time creator. All of the creators I see have have these three elements.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well put. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, yeah. Like before you even think about starting a channel or about recording an album or something, you need to know that like I've been killing it for years. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I know that I'm going to keep killing it. And then you're like, okay, so then, let's put some of these projects on channel or something, or let's put some of these projects on a vinyl, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it. And that's why I say that's the easy part, because it's like, well, you know, I already know what I'm doing technically. It's just a matter of converting that to a medium that people can consume.
Yeah, yeah. And the promotion part isn't going to take you 5 years too. You can part part of that also is finding a niche. I think that's something that I see from a lot of people who don't really understand that you can't start out as like a generalist, because people need a reason to be interested in you, um,
Yeah.
and that you need to be able to yeah, sorry,
No, it's
lost my train of
true.
thought there. Yeah.
No, I mean, but what's interesting is that I would tend to agree, but I feel like I've been proven wrong in the sense that it's like, okay, so I feel like me personally, people would need to be interested in me before they want to hear me talk. Like, kind of, which is why I wanted to reach a certain milestone on YouTube before I just started having these conversations,
Yeah.
because I don't think anybody would care if I'm just some guy. But there's people on YouTube. There's a lot of them. They literally just started by just talking, just vlogging, or just like
Right.
just talking about stuff. And I guess they're just entertaining people. And another part of it is that they pick good topics that people are interested in hearing about. Um, that is actually a really big part of it.
I think you're right, but I also think that's a much more difficult route. And if you're someone getting into this, wanting to do it as a professional, I think that having a niche and knowing that there's already an audience for you that could be interested in your content as a business plan, that just sounds better to me. But you're totally right. There are plenty of general channels that aren't playing the piano or um, playing Call of Duty. It's true.
Yeah, I don't have like a specialized skill, but I don't think that would be me. I feel like if I tried to do that, I would fall flat. Who knows? Maybe I wouldn't, but mm, yeah, it's tough.
Do you do you when I maybe I'm just not very familiar with some of these kind of general content creators. Um, were were there any particular ones you had in mind there?
Sure,
I'm just
like
curious.
Blair White. Um,
Where?
don't know if you've heard of Blair White. It's a trans, individual
Oh,
who just talks about stuff. You know.
well, it says here that she is like a right wing pundit. So you see she'll get an audience from that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call her a right wing pundit though.
Well, this is what the internet's saying saying about her.
Yeah,
So that might not be accurate. I had never heard of her.
yeah, like she's just a person. But yeah, people say that about her because like she's leans to the right on certain issues,
Right.
but then she leans to the left on issues too. So I mean, she just talks about stuff. To be honest with you, you know,
Mhm.
like man, like anything.
But I'll also say this is a person who is kind of made for the internet. Looking at her pictures and
Yeah,
her whole background, this is
yeah,
not an average person,
that's true.
to say the least.
That's true. Yeah.
So for most people, yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel strongly about the niche thing because I've seen so many people do it successfully. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so if you're a supermodel or an NFL player, you don't need to learn piano.
Yeah. True. True. Yeah. I mean, no, yeah, it's true. I mean, if you have like a specialized skill and you're like an expert in a certain area, then you've got an edge. And, similarly, if you're just a very attractive person, then you've also got an edge if you're very an attractive
Right.
person.
An edge. That's the key word. Yeah, and that's what people talk about in like stock trading and investment, what cuts you away from the rest of the pack? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a key thing that, you need to figure out if you want to make it as a creative, not just on YouTube, but anywhere. What sets you apart? Why should people care about you? And so, you know, um, I have what I consider to be a smaller, medium-sized channel. Um, you know, um, and these designations are arbitrary,
Yeah.
but I feel that below 1,000, you're a small channel. I feel like from like 1,000 to 10,000, it's like a small to medium sized channel. And then I feel that above 10,000, you are solidly a medium sized channel. And then I feel that above 100,000, you are a large channel. I mean, do you think
Mhm.
that that's a reasonable thresholds?
Yes.
Okay, so just working with that, here's kind of my view of things as somebody that has a small, medium, like a small to medium sized channel. Um, if you want to make it as a creative, first you need to get that edge, which we kind of just spoke about, and then you need to really know your marketing.
Mhm.
And there are so many different ways to market, and I mean, maybe I'll do a different show on this at some other point. But I would personally recommend, um, to market like Reddit or something, or Facebook or something free, at first, because you need to get your numbers up, um, in kind of a general forum that's free, just to see what works for you, what doesn't. Just try to grind your way through getting a few hundred subscribers, and I think you'll learn a lot. I think that this is gonna weed out the people that aren't really that serious about it, because this is a really tough stage when your will is gonna be tested, you know, because you're gonna run into people that don't really care about what you're doing, obviously. And you're gonna realize I don't even really know what I'm doing, and like you're just gonna have to kind of figure out your process. But once you do figure out your process, and honestly, once you've got like a few hundred subscribers, I feel like you're pretty much on a roll. Like at a certain point, like especially above like 500, 500 seems small, but I don't really think it's that small, especially if you've been grinding away on like these free services like Facebook, because like, you've gotten a group of people, a sizable group of people that are kind of rolling with you, and you probably have a lot of content. And now I think you're ready to move to the next level, which is like marketing, like, running ads, Reddit, Facebook, um, Instagram, some of these other services, Google, ads, stuff like that, and kind of taking it more to the professional level. And I guess that's as deep as I'm going to go with it. So what do you think? What advice could you give to people?
I think that all sounds great. I think that, especially for my kind of second of my three stages, but I would like to maybe talk a little bit about the monetization process, which is the final stage. Um, you know, um, a rule of thumb I've heard for creating a Patreon is that you should have about 20,000 people in your community in general. But I've seen, so this monetization process also comes in with skill. So depending on what you do. You can have, for instance, a monthly subscriber base through Patreon of people who just pay to get whatever work you release every month before everyone else, be it some illustrations, short stories, whatever. There are also the asset stores, like like in Unity and in um, the Unreal store. You can create things like in-game assets and sell them
Huh.
through their stores. Yes,
Wow.
I mean, there are plenty of artists who are making full-time livings doing this. Um, then you also have the vendors where you can sell courses like Gumroad and Udemy. But with the asset stores, especially, this is where skill comes in. It it is very competitive. So so you have got to have experience, and so one other thing that I want to bring up. Sorry, Chris. Actually, do you want to say anything on that? I have
No, no, no.
one
Yeah,
one
yeah.
one one other
Go
thing after
ahead.
that.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. I'm listening, enjoying it.
Okay, cool. So for the skill portion, um, there are plenty of people I'm sure who maybe you have drawn for a long time, but you haven't really taken lessons, and you know that your skill isn't where it needs to be pro. So right now there are so many online schools like for the visual arts. There is Proco. You can be educated by some of the best artists in the world on all of the major fundamentals. But it's so important that people get this education and not only start doing the skill grinding, but continue forever, because it's so competitive out there. Like if you spend some time on YouTube or on ArtStation, uh, yeah, the skill aspect has to be really really high. So find uh, reputable schools too, that are made by artists who are working and are talented. And if you can find somewhere to get feedback, and I'm talking all about art, but like this applies to music and to writing. Having feedback from a mentor figure, someone who is where you want to be, uh, that is invaluable on your because you want to become like them. So having someone who you can work with, who can help you get there, is invaluable. Now, obviously, that's expensive, but if you can afford it, it helps a lot with the skill aspect.
Yeah.
Okay, rant over.
No, yeah. I mean, thank you for that. You know, I feel like we're gonna probably have to talk off air about like the monetization aspect, because that's one thing that I have like, I mean, I don't want to say never thought about, because I have thought about it. Um, but like that I haven't like seriously sat down and planned for.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be honest, I think is a good thing. Um, Although I do have to explain a bit. I think that if you're coming into this space and you're thinking, I'm going to be a YouTuber and I'm going to get rich, you know what I mean? And like that's kind of like your mindset coming in, then I'm not saying you're not going to succeed, but I'm saying that I I think your mindset's going to have to change if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to succeed. You know, I think that really you have to you really have to do it because you love like what you do, you know. Like my mindset is whether or not I become a big YouTuber or I stay at, you know, where I am right now, I'm still going to do what I'm doing, you know, period. Like this is what I do, you know. Like this is just what I do. What else am I going to do except play the piano? You know, and I feel like when you're at that point, it's very powerful because it's like, you know, like this isn't about YouTube. Like this is about like you're doing what
Hmm.
what you love, you know. And so yeah, I think I mean there's only so deep that we can go into this. And you know, we are coming up on an hour, so I'm not going to go off on a whole new thing, but I guess the last nugget of information I want to throw out there is just that I think that mindset is really important. Um, you know,
For
you
sure.
you need to come in because you're confident about what you're doing, and the only way you're going to be confident about what you're doing is if you've been doing it for a long time and you know that you're good. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you love it, and that takes time. Thoughts?
I agree with all that. I just want to add that if you want to make this a living, you should have some aspect of a business mindset. It
Sure.
shouldn't be, I'm going to become a millionaire doing this. It should be more like, hey, maybe one of my five revenue streams can be from YouTube. And and having that monetary aspect, I think part of it comes from my background as a software developer, working with like dozens of startups, that I'm always very conscious of, like, from the get-go, where is the cash flow coming from?
Yeah.
And you know what? Most successful YouTubers are not. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with having that in your head. And if you want to make a living, I think having that kind of consciousness will make it more likely.
Yeah. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, I get people on my channel that kind of come and go and ask for advice and stuff. And, um, you know, just yesterday, actually, I met this guy who has like a jazz group out in Australia. And, you know, it's just, I mean, he plays really well. His whole group plays well. And, you know, I guess if I had advice for somebody like that, it would, yeah, it would be about the business side of things, about like, you know, you've got a college student, by the way.
Mm,
So, you know, it's like you've got to make sure that this is going somewhere monetarily. Like maybe not even for you, because like maybe you know that you're going to stick with this no matter what. But like if you can't get an income stream coming in at some point, like your group is going to disband,
mhm.
you know, because people need to survive. That's kind of just the reality of how things work here on planet Earth. People need to eat, people need to survive. College ends, you know, and then people need to get jobs if this music thing hasn't kind of taken off yet, you know. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's completely true. I mean, it's easy for me to idealize things
Right.
as a physician, you know, because I don't need money really. And I guess I put myself in that position consciously to
It,
where,
sorry.
yeah, I'll just finish my thought. Yeah, I put myself in my position there consciously, so that I wouldn't feel the pressure to make money with my music. But I think it shouldn't make
Exactly.
me like, you know, slack on it either. Like I do want music to be my main income stream. But anyway, you were gonna say something?
No, um, you wrapped it up with not having to worry about money while you're trying to trying to build your music business or your art business is really the best situation you can be in, because you don't have to make compromises. You can get to where you want to be without, you know, having to do things that you don't want. You can set up the situation you want. So yeah, save your money, kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way to do this. I mean, I guess this will be my last thought, is that being a creative, it really is like the hardest possible path that you could ever take here, like in life. That's my opinion. It's going to be tough, and not just because the work itself is tough, but also because, like, I mean, you're just not going to be accepted. But I mean, yeah, well, I shouldn't say that. I've met people where like their families are great and like very accepting of like anything that they want to do, but I feel like for the most part, man, like people are very negative when they hear that you want to do anything that's not really on the, if you're not coloring between the lines.
Right.
This is how I like to kind of put it. They just are very negative. They're like, oh, you want to write? Well, how are you going to make money writing? Or you want to be a film, you want to be a screenwriter, and well, how many of those do we need? You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to get, these comments, and like,
Naysayers.
yeah, and it's going to be ready for it, guys. Be ready for it, because you're going to have to deal with that
It's
for,
coming.
yeah, you're going to have to deal with that for a long time. A lot. The best people had to deal with that. There's an AC/DC song called "It's a Long Way to the Top" if you want to rock and roll, and that's the truth.
Yeah, man. We could keep this conversation going for 10 years, but I'll just say something else to think about: planning your career in stages. That's another thing, which is a whole nother topic, but just, yeah, sorry.
No,
So,
no, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, the platform's yours. I think I'm done. We can close on your final thought. Is that what you wanted to? Did you want to expand on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, just know that even with all the work there in terms of building your skill and getting the promotion going and getting the monetization going, this is just the beginning. This is literally like the first step in like a creative career, which is like so daunting, but also really exciting. I think if you're doing something you love. So yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I mean, thank you so much. I think this was a great conversation.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was good. Um, covered a lot of ground. I mean, you know, what the heck? I mean, these topics are so freaking deep.
Yeah,
You could
yeah.
go in one direction for hours and not even cover all of it. But I really appreciate you coming, and I mean, I'm sure that we're gonna have plenty more shows in the future. So, thanks so much.
Great. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.